Yo, BJ Gaddour with the BJ Gaddour podcast, and we have a very special episode today with a fellow fitness industry pro who's been in the game much longer than me, one of the original personal trainers in 1986 with AYC Fitness in Kansas City. And we are talking with the man who co-wrote the book on the true legend and GOAT, the greatest of all time in the fitness industry, Jack LaLanne. And this is a man of many firsts, a man of many feats, and a man with true signature style and creativity that transformed the modern fitness industry. So, Greg, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, BJ. Always good to see you.
It's been a long time. We actually were just talking before starting recording that, I think it may have been like 2007, 2008 since we last saw each other. And for those that obviously we are dating ourselves today, my friend, but Greg and I we were at the forefront of a big shift around 2007, 2008 when the economy crashed and personal training for many became just unaffordable. And we moved to kind of more community corporate style of boot camps, did some work together, helping other fitness pros make that transition. But I have not seen or really spoken to you since. So it's great to connect. You've gone on to do many great things, including writing the book, Pride and Discipline, the legacy of Jack LaLanne in his own words and the words of those he inspired, co-written with his wife as well, Elaine LaLanne, which obviously that's got to be a match made in heaven. And you've got a lot of amazing contributors to this. The Incredible Hulk himself, Lou Ferrigno, does the forward. And you've obviously been a longtime writer, speaker in the space. You've seen the industry pretty much from the start of it to what it is today. So I do want to get some perspective from you there as well. But let's just kick it off with like the origin story, man. Like you've been at this a long time. You're 62 now, still in great shape, still training people hands-on in your own gym, but doing other things. Obviously the writing, the speaking, consulting. Talk to us, man.
Yeah, well, AYC is Kansas City's original personal training center, founded in May of 1986. And we're in our 38th year, still going strong. I'm still actively involved with it. I work with my clients that have been with me for well over 30 years. And so, I'm not going to abandon them. So I'm still actively training about 20 sessions a week. But I have two other businesses. One is a publishing company called Scriptor Publishing Group. And we did publish Pride and Discipline, the legacy of Jack LaLanne. And then my other company is a fitness equipment company called Endless Rope. And it's the world's first scaled rope climbing machine. So I stay actively involved in a lot of different areas, but those are my three primary businesses.
You've obviously taken several pages out of Jack LaLanne's playbook, man. Like, and we'll talk about this today in terms of just like, the jumpsuits or the pantsuits, the equipment, both machines and home gym equipment, nutritional supplements or snacks. It really just, because you do have to, if you want to find longevity in this space, you have to do it all, because especially with, the fact that you're still in business after that global pandemic, where a lot of our fellow peers, a lot of people are selling medical devices.
You're right.
They're different fields, man. So they do say the cream rises. I'm not surprised you're still in it, but I'm sure it was a difficult time.
Well, interestingly, we've had technically three official recessions in my lifespan in business. Each of those times, including the 2008 real estate bubble where the economy really crashed, each of the times we hit recession, my personal training business actually had their best years ever.
Wow.
And a lot of it has to do, I started to kind of research and wonder why, because it didn't make a lot of sense, when you think about it. But it goes all the way back to Estee Lauder. And it's called the lipstick effect. A lot of economists call it that. And what it is when people are down financially, they still want to look and feel good. So lipstick sales in the Great Depression soared because women wanted to feel better about themselves. So they bought lipstick. I likened it to our business in that people still wanted to feel good about themselves. So we were very fortunate to kind of fall under that category where even though our clients weren't traveling as much as they did, and think about it, when your personal training clients travel, that's lost revenue. So if they were staying home, they were still going to maintain their normal routine at home, which actually benefited our personal training business. Because when they're in town, maintaining their daily, routine, we benefited from it. So each time there was recession, our business actually benefited from it, strangely enough. But when you and I were doing those boot camp, whether it be community or corporate boot camps, that just allowed more people to get involved in fitness. And so it was a great honor to work with you in those times as well.
And I don't mean to be, Debbie Downer, but it does feel like we're on the verge of another one of those.
Very possible, unfortunately. Yes.
Yeah. So again, what I tell people, hey, if you're in this business, you gotta just shift into another gear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because
no question about it. Yeah.
And the other piece of it too is, like, this is the time when you take your fitness even more seriously, because all these things outside of your control, if you allow them to dictate the way you live, the way you think, you're done. And what I've loved most about fitness, and again, like I love the act of it. I'm not as big a fan of sharing it, teaching it, coaching it, if I'm being honest, because I feel like it's a very personal, individual thing, and it's one of those things where you have full control. The attitude, the effort, what you choose to do, and it's always guided me during the toughest of times. So, if you're listening and you're sensing the same thing that Greg and I are sensing around us, and by the way, it's been a rough go since 2020. The people that I know that are still kicking strong, they move every day with passion and purpose, and everything else seems to fall into place. So let's talk a little bit about another thing too. When we had conversations, and I'm very similar in the sense that I have a very simple, consistent approach. We talked about, like, you have the same breakfast every day, right?
For over 30 years.
Like, we live in a time where discipline is dying. Routine is something that people just can't commit to because it's boring, or they just whether it be the low attention spans or the constant need for stimulation. Take me through your daily schedule, like, what you eat, what you're moving, what does your workday look like, because I know we'll find so many insights.
Yeah, so I'm a very early riser. I love the early mornings because there are very few distractions. And so that's when I have, I'm between 3 and 4 a.m. riser every day of my life without an alarm clock 99.9% of the time. I always set it just in case, but rarely do I have to turn it off. So I get up early and I always eat breakfast. I spend time in the Word. I'm a man of faith. I always think that helps ground me and helps prepare me for my day and my week and just my life in general. That's my ultimate purpose. And that's what I believe keeps my GPS going in the right direction. And you had mentioned the breakfast, and it takes, it takes a decision out of the way when you just know exactly what you're going to have. So it's just a regimented, disciplined routine. I eat oatmeal with yogurt mixed together and a handful of walnuts, banana, and a cup of coffee. Pretty simple.
That was it. It's literally the same thing. 12 years.
No, 30 years. Over 30 years.
Well, since we last spoke, I was like, he's going to have to change it up a little bit. But no, I mean, like you said, the power in that being, people spend so much time thinking about what is best, what is better. And then you have all these, in my opinion, idiots out there trying to tell people how to biohack the perfect life and live to be 200 years old, overlooking just simple daily habits. So you got the same breakfast, you eat your breakfast. What else happens?
Yeah, and then I, depending on, with, like I said, I have 3 businesses, so there are weeks where one of the businesses will take priority, and I need to give more energy to that. Like this past couple weeks, one of my trainers is moving to Scottsdale, Arizona, so I had to really lean into AYC to make sure bringing a new trainer into the fold was done correctly, and onboarding and making sure, a lot of big box clubs, they're kind of like puppy mills of personal trainers where they just constantly roll them in and out. But AYC truly is a career. I've got 2 trainers that have been with me for more than 30 years. Wow. My other one's for 15 to 20 years. So, when I hire a trainer, I don't hire them for a year or 5 years. I'm looking at a career for them. So I really had to, the last couple weeks, pour my energies into AYC. Now that doesn't mean the other 2 businesses get nothing. It just means that the priority is AYC. There are weeks when we'll have multiple books that we're getting ready to publish through Scripter Publishing Group, where I've got deadlines I've got to hit there, where my focus will be on that. I do a fair amount of traveling with the company Endless Rope, which is my 3rd business, because we do a lot of trade shows and things like that. So there are weeks that will take priority. But every day we'll usually have segments of each of those 3 businesses. But again, some weeks the focus is greater on AYC, others Scripter Publishing, and then others Endless Rope.
Very cool. And then, you're training clients. Like when are you fitting in your workouts? And take us through like what did yesterday look like from start to finish?
Yeah, so Wednesdays are I love Wednesdays because they're my only really late day of the week. So I started my day at 3 a.m. yesterday, which was Wednesday, and I had usually I'll do between 3 and 5 appointments a day. And again, I think I mentioned earlier that my average personal training client has been with me for more than 30 years. So, they're family. I mean, it's not just an exercise routine. It is truly, I'm part of their life, they're part of mine, and together we are a team that is looking long-term for their health. We're not trying to help them lose 30 pounds in 30 days. We're looking at 30 years, 40 years, 60 years of exercise. So I saw 5 clients yesterday on Wednesday. I actually had we had a book published on Tuesday that I was working on, some bestseller things that we work with our authors on. So I spent probably 2 hours with the publishing group. I had a meeting with Endless Rope, which was about an hour. And then when I got home, I had a real light dinner because I go and do my American Ninja Warrior training on Wednesday nights. And I spend 2 hours from 7 to 9 p.m. swinging from 10-foot ceilings and doing balance training. And the one thing that really got me interested in that, couple things. One of our authors early on, his name's Daniel Gill, and he's one of the top American Ninja Warriors in the world. He won the show a couple years ago. He actually finished 2nd this year on the show. It just ended earlier this week. But he wrote a book through Scripter Publishing Group, and he and I chatted quite a bit through the process. And he said, I think you would love this. It's something you should give it a try. So I went to a local facility here in Kansas City, and I was like a 4-year-old kid on monkey bars. And I say that because I reverted back to my inner child playing on monkey bars and running on balance things. And it was just more fun than I can express in words. And the next day when I woke up, I was sore from head to toe, muscle wise. I was like, oh, wow, this is something different, something new. And then I started to kind of do a little more research because through my clients, we're working on anti-aging or healthy aging routines. One of the biggest correlations of longevity is grip strength. everything you do in Ninja Warrior training, whether it be climbing ropes, swinging on different grip items, has to do with grip strength. So I thought that's a win. You know, people falling as they age and breaking hips and bones is another thing. Balance training, American Ninja Warrior training is tons of balance. So I thought this is kind of a win-win for me. Healthy aging, it's fun, it's physical, and I just fell in love with it. So I've been doing that now for about 4 years. I did take a fall from a 10-foot ceiling and broke my ankle about a year and a half ago. But I will say, one of the sayings that Jack LaLanne said is that your health account is like your bank account. The more you put in, the more you can take out. And I thought about that saying after I broke my ankle, because it's so true. All of the deposits that I had made into my health account over my entire lifespan carried me through that recovery so much quicker than it normally would have. And I sit here today, 16 months after breaking my ankle. I'm stronger than I ever was. I'm doing more in that type of training than I did before. And it's because I had put so many deposits into my health account that I was able to recover so quickly and am better for it.
So do you sleep? Do you get some sleep or no?
I go to bed usually at 8 o'clock every night, except for Wednesday night.
Except Wednesday. Okay, so you have one day a week where
I stay up late. That's my late night, because I'll do that type of training Monday mornings at 8 and then Wednesday nights at 7. And so those are my 2 ninja trainings. And then I'll do traditional weight training. I'll do it with just slightly little bit of rest between, because I'm trying to get my cardio work while I do my weight training. I don't particularly like getting on a treadmill or going outside and running. I like to combine my cardio with it. I learned that from my original mentor in the industry, Jack LaLanne. And he always talked about, shortening the rest period between weights to combine the best of both worlds. So I practice that type of resistance training. I do a lot of resistance band training. By the way, just a side note, do you know who invented the resistance band?
Please tell me.
Jack LaLanne, 1954. I just happen to have one from 1954 right here from the Oakland Tire Company.
Looks like a dog leash.
It is a rubber band. They formed it from tire rubber in 1954. And the cool thing is our mutual friend, Dave the Bandman Schmitz, and I have partnered to release the latest version of the resistance band. And I just happen to have one of those, the LaLanne Band Fit Kit. And it is powered by resistance band training, which is so cool because it's the evolution 70 years later from tire rubber resistance band all the way to where we are today with the best resistance band product on the market. So I do a lot of resistance band training just because it's easier on the joints. I do a lot of seasonal training because during the summer, I love to go out to the football field and flip 450-pound tires. I've done that for 20 years. That's my summer routine because it's different. It's resistance. It's high intense cardio. And I make it more of a challenge each year because each workout, when I do it out there, I flip my age in years. So when I was 50, I would flip it 50 times per workout. I'm 62 now. So this entire summer, I would flip the tire 62 times for my workout. So that's, I just I change it up during the year. I have fun with it. I'm not overly regimented. I don't, with my paper and write so many number of sets and reps and all that stuff. I used to do that. But as I age, I want to live functionally well. I want to have a long lifespan, or I should say a long health span. I want to be healthy longer. I had a good friend who liked to say people are living too short and dying too long.
Wow.
And it's a profound statement when you think about it, because modern medicine can keep a person alive a real long time, in a very poor state of health. And I don't want to be old when I'm old. I want to feel, I think I mentioned earlier, I feel 26 now that I'm 62, and I want to feel 26 when I'm 72 and 82. So I want the health span to be long, not just the lifespan.
That is such a powerful statement, man. Because one thing that and I can't wait to fully read this book from cover to cover. But Jack LaLanne was, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was exercising until the day he died.
Yeah, in fact, he exercised the morning he passed, and he had pneumonia, and so yeah, he died of pneumonia. But yeah, he was 96 and a half years old when he passed. He had a long health span. He was a very healthy man. Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people are literally spending the last 5 to 10 plus years of their life just, being kept alive through pills and machines, and they lose all, like that's what it's about. A lot of people, there's the whole thing now is people are trying to live to be centenarians.
Yeah.
And, the reality is, I look at fitness, look, we're given genes. All right. They're passed on to us. And in most cases, exercise can really be something that, or you can look at it this way. Your lifestyle is more likely to cost you years of your life than to add.
Right.
If we're just being honest about it, right?
Absolutely.
Your lifestyle choices, it's kind of in the cards. Your how long you're going to live, but stress and lifestyle will dictate if it's going to chop it off. So the real purpose of exercise, nutrition, an overall active, healthy lifestyle is at every second, every minute, every hour, every day, you are going to be here, that you're designed to be here. You have a real say in it in terms of what you can do and how you, what approaches you take and how you move. And it's not about living as long as possible. It's about living a beautiful, high quality of life and doing everything you want to do.
Well, I agree 100%. I want to be able to, I've got 2 grandkids. I want to be able to go out and run and chase them and have them chase me. I want to play with my grandkids just like I would if I were a kid.
So one thing that struck too when you were talking about how you have evolved and going from, we all start, by the way, especially if you're in this space, we're trying to create these perfect programs, sets and reps, number focused, very analytical, obsessive. And then you realize, I have an Hourglass right here. My favorite workouts are where I come in, I just listen to how I'm feeling that day based on what I did yesterday, what I might want to do later in the week. I flip the Hourglass, and I maybe have a couple things I'm going to start with, but then I just go until the last grain of sand is gone, because I know all that matters. I just got to put my hour in. It doesn't matter as much as what I'm going to do. And a lot of people will obsess and get paralyzed and trying to figure out what to do or bounce from program to program. But it was just the other piece of it too, finding some fun. Like you spend your whole life, especially early and when you're young, you beat yourself up. You try to punish yourself, and then you realize, oh, I don't have to do that anymore because of all the deposits. All those daily deposits allow you the ability to free flow, improvise, and do what you want to do, because at the end of the day, it's just about moving. You've been in this space a long time. Take me from decade to decade. And one thing too, do you watch the show Physical on Apple?
Apple TV? I don't have Apple TV, so I haven't seen it.
You have to go. You gotta subscribe just for this show, because basically it goes Rose Byrne, I believe her name is,
okay.
And she's like, basically it chronicles the 80s fitness boom and the birth of like the aerobics instructor.
Yep.
And she's also battling eating disorders, and it's like a time capsule. But that for me, this is what I was, because I was born in 1982. This is my first exposure to fitness, and I'm watching back and just the unique style, but also just in a lot of ways the birth of what we see now, infomercials and supplements. But I think you'll enjoy it. I really do. But anyway, you were there. You were there before it, but you were there in the heat of it. You started your business during that critical decade where we had the the boom, bodybuilding boomed in the 70s, but then, obviously Arnold transcended and went into movies and, fitness, Stallone and Arnold just going back and forth, making movies, and fitness was like at the forefront of it.
Yeah.
The action hero body, and then drugs, steroids, take us through all of it.
Sure.
What's your assessment of the last 4 decades?
Yeah. So in the 70s, fitness was bodybuilding, and these are the segments of fitness. You had the bodybuilders, and then you had the tennis players, which then kind of evolved into racquetball more into the 80s, right? And then you had the aerobics boom that came along in the late 70s, early 80s. And for the most part, never did those worlds collide. And so I graduated high school in 1978, had always been active, was a high school wrestler, and then competed in judo all through college. And so the way I trained, metabolic resistance training was the way I trained, where I did marry those worlds of resistance training and cardio. When I first got into the business in the early 1980s, all the research that they were telling you about said, no, don't bring those two worlds together. Do your weights first, and then if you're going to do cardio, then do your cardio after that. But don't bring those worlds together. But instinctively, through my athletic training, I didn't buy into it. And also, my original mentor, Jack LaLanne, didn't buy into it. And I happened to believe him more than I did all the noise that you heard from the industry. And I'm, now I sit here 40 years later, and I'm happy to say that Jack was right. And my instincts and understanding what I learned from Jack were correct. You do want to bring those worlds together. You can shorten the rest between sets of weights and turn it into a beautiful marriage of resistance and cardio. And now that's what so many people are doing with the HIIT training and the metabolic resistance training, where there is shorter rest periods in that. Now, I'm not saying that that works for a bodybuilder or a power lifter, but I'm talking about for living well long and just for general lifestyle training. So I mean, again, bodybuilders, yeah, there are specific things you need to do, but I don't care to get on a stage with a bikini and flex. And some of my wonderful friends do. It's a different world. I'm looking for lifestyle, longevity, health span. So in that world, you do bring those worlds together, and you can live well for doing that. And then, like you said, finding things that you enjoy that make you feel joyful like a child, like the Ninja Warrior training does, or your wrestling and football days where you go out to the track and you flip tires on a football field. That is metabolic resistance training. It's high intensity training, and it feels good. It's fun. For me, not everybody loves that, but find things that you enjoy. And that's what the early 70s, or I'm sorry, the early 80s were like, is the worlds didn't cross. And then as that decade progressed into the 90s, you started seeing programs like the P90Xs that all of a sudden were bringing those worlds together. And from the 90s on to now, those worlds have crossed over, and those programs are getting more sophisticated. The purchasing public is so much more educated, which means the trainers that are training them need to be more educated. And I have found it to be really a win-win when I have a very well-educated consumer come in who knows a lot more than they did back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's enjoyable because they understand the why. And the why in anything is so important.
And you've seen so many trends come and go.
Yes.
All the infomercials, all the fitness gimmicks, and has anything really changed in the last 40 years? I mean, obviously the consumer knows more. We as a professional or trainers, we know more, and we've passed along more. But has anything really changed?
Well, I will say, the evolution of the equipment has evolved. I mean, certainly, I just showed you the difference between 1954 and then what is out there with Dave's bands today. I mean, the sophistication is certainly greater now than it was then. Jack invented the very first leg extension machine. The leg extension machine has evolved the way it was. And by the way, I was visiting Elaine about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, and I got to work out on that original leg extension machine. I mean, that was like just being in fitness heaven. It was just amazing to be able to play on that. But to see the evolution of the equipment and the sophistication of the equipment is so much better today than it was then. But I will say that being said, it's still fun to go out and flip tires and jump and do old school stuff too, the old school boot camp type of training. So again, it's just fun to bring everything together and not just stay so regimented in the advanced technology, because I want to play too.
That's the thing, and that's what concerns me in the sense with this push towards, again, the biohacking,
Yeah.
biometrics. Obviously technology is great, but we have seen that it also has tremendous costs,
Right.
and we don't want to lose the ruggedness.
Yes.
That the Greeks and the Romans first tapped into, right? We've become so soft. How do we know so much more about exercise and have all this technology and equipment, but as a society, it feels like we've never been softer.
And that's true.
We've lost that rugged attitude, that rugged nature that really, in my mind, fitness is all about getting outside, doing things that really get you outside of your comfort zone, not looking at numbers, going inside your body and actually learning how to move. And what I'm trying to say is there's no physical education and culture. And that starts with schools. They've literally stripped those programs out. And there's just, there's screens and there's a lot of sitting, and people want to find a pill or a supplement to solve all their problems. So, one quote, it's at the beginning of the book: exercise is king, nutrition is queen. Put them together and you've got a kingdom. And you know what's so great about that? A lot of people in our space, they say nutrition's number one. And it's very important, but anyone who does this, because the thing is, you can't optimize nutrition without movement. And exercise done regularly and not abused, as a lot of people do it now. People now like to impress with, I did 2.5 hours of exercise today. But the right amount of exercise puts you in a situation hormonally, metabolically, where you will make better food choices and you get more out of your food. Your food is more likely to help go towards muscle growth and recovery and less likely to go to fat storage. Your blood sugar is better. Break that quote down. I mean, it's a simple thing, but why was exercise number one and nutrition number two in his mind?
No, I think a lot of it, because now in the early days when he started his first physical culture studio as a 21-year-old young man in Oakland, California, the doctors back then, told everybody that science says that will ruin your sex drive. It'll drive you crazy. He was called he always likes to say, when I began, all the experts said that I was a quack and a charlatan, but now they call me the authority. And that's so true, because doctors told people that it was not good for them. They said women should never lift weights. Jack was the first person to work with athletes and weights. He was the first to work with women and weights, with the disabled community and weights. He was the first to do co-ed training. He was just so far ahead of his time, and the doctors told him that he was a quack. But by the end, again, they were calling him the authority. But exercise, movement, even Dr. Kenneth Cooper, the father of aerobics. In fact, Kenneth Cooper and Elaine and I were down in Orlando a little less than a year ago for the Doctor's Lifestyle Wellness Conference, and they were being given Lifetime Achievement Awards. So here I had the First Lady of Fitness and the father of aerobics, Kenneth Cooper, together, and I was just like a fly on the wall, just absorbing this wisdom from these two amazing people. But all of Dr. Cooper's research, he used to be big on, running, cardio. But all of the research kept coming back that people were breaking down just doing the running. And so he shifted his whole thinking into lessen the running, bring more weight training into it, and again, bring the two together, and longevity will occur. And fitness, the weight training and the cardio together, was much greater for longevity than nutrition. So again, you're right. A lot of people say nutrition first, exercise second, but it is totally flipped. Movement, exercise is king, and nutrition is queen. And you certainly bring them together and you've got the kingdom.
Oh, for sure. And again, like, I think part of that too is, because, there is, man, people have a rough relationship with food, and, you think you have to be perfect. And the beauty of regular exercise, it allows you to still, enjoy your favorite comfort foods, and just live a fun life. We all go through this, and you got to make the mistakes in this journey. And that's one thing people aren't willing to do anymore. They want to start with a perfect plan. They don't want to go through the process of, decades long mastery and trial and error and experimentation and fine tuning. But, if you get into a situation where you're exercising several hours a day, you're starving yourself, this is the exact opposite of what, Jack LaLanne was all about, right? And it's stealing from you. It's taking away the joy. Our buddy David Jack talks about all the time about, fitness, the pursuit of fitness, actually stealing your fitness. But so many firsts. I mean, like, again, like the ultimate entrepreneur he was.
He was. Yes, to a certain extent, but what he was not was a great businessman early on, and that's because that wasn't his mission. He always talked about that when people would ask him, because he invented the first leg extension machine. He invented the Smith machine. He called it the squat machine, and then his friend Rudy Smith made a couple little changes, but neither of them patented that. So the Smith machine does not have a patent on it. And so many other things that he invented but never patented. And when people would ask him about that, he said, I don't care about that stuff. My mission is to help people help themselves through exercise and nutrition. That was all he was focused on. That was his mission. So he didn't care about, all of that, and probably left literally billions of dollars of patents on the table because that wasn't his mission. Now, he did okay. In fact, when he was in his 80s, many of the listeners out there may remember the Jack LaLanne juicer that they sold on Home Shopping Network. And interestingly, that's when they came into their big money. They sold $1.5 billion worth of Jack LaLanne juicers.
Wow.
Think about that. $1.5 billion worth of Jack LaLanne juicers. And that's where the big money started pouring in when he was in his 80s.
Have they ever shared like how much money he made in his career?
That we've never really talked about. But my guess is, as we go through, and we haven't talked about it yet, but we'll, I'm sure, talk a little bit about the movie that is being worked on about his life. I'm sure that will be covered in that process, because they've literally got thousands of hours of Jack's life on tape, on audio, in print, that they're going to be able to get a true, authentic story of his life, that we documented in the book. So I'm excited for that. Now, interestingly, when you were talking about an entrepreneur, early on, Jack started his exercise show in 1951 in San Francisco. And so early on, to get sponsors, he had to create products to sell on the show to keep the show alive. So it was a lot of the products that he invented and created, like the band, were then promoted on the TV show to pay for production time. And you know, those are things, kind of the necessity of creation. And so from an entrepreneurial standpoint, yeah, that's without question, he was quite the entrepreneur.
When you're really good at what you do, you might leave millions on the table, but you'll still make millions.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what was, again, like, he's kind of the prototype, you know, like, because again, you know, there are, you mentioned just also just the style and creativity. I've watched some old YouTube videos of like his show, and you know, he has it,
Yes.
you know, the ability to come through a screen in ways that very few people can do. Very few people can do. Already very few people can do it in a room when there's other people there, but to do it when no one else is there through a screen, you know, I know firsthand how difficult that is. My work with Men's Health, all the DVDs, I've made thousands of workout videos, and it is not easy. You have to go somewhere else, or you have to really feel, as I truly believe he did, that he was impacting people in a transformative way. You almost have to be delusional about it, right? Because you can't see it, you can't feel it. You have to go to whether it's a higher power or a spiritual place with it. And if you watch some of his old videos, and I encourage those listening to just go to YouTube and just check out some old Jack LaLanne stuff. And a lot of these people now that are, you know, claiming to be using some of the first versions of stuff, like, no, this for decades this has been done. And again, like, he would be the first to say, like, is there anything really new in fitness? There's new interpretations, new combinations, new approaches, but you know, ultimately, you know, it's all been here for a very, very long time. It's just, how do you package it? How do you inspire and motivate? So, you know, I actually have on, just before we move to the next part, just some of the incredible feats of strength and endurance he accomplished. Which, by the way, no one that's ever been good at this, you can't just be good at it with your mind. You have to actually do this stuff. You got to actually be fit. You got to actually work out and train and push yourself physically to actually inspire people and do great things. And that was obviously a big part of what he did. But here's just a couple. Let me just go through this quick. Opened the first modern health spa, Physical Culture Studio, 1936. You mentioned the first co-ed health club, first to combine health food bar in a gym, like the smoothie bar in a gym.
Sure. That was Jack.
First to have a weight loss instant breakfast and meal replacement drink, the MRP, or you know, right now it's called the Ready, what's it called? RTD, Ready to Drink. It's
Ready to Drink, exactly. Yeah.
First to combine weight training with nutrition. First to have an edible snack nutrition bar. Invented the first weight selector for cable machines. First leg extension machine. First to teach scientific bodybuilding by changing the program every 2 to 3 weeks. First to have a rubber stretcher band. We touched on the glamour stretcher. First to have athletes working out with weights, women, the elderly, the disabled. First to sell vitamins and exercise equipment on television. The original network television personality and pioneer, nationally syndicated. So it's just, and again, like, I can tell why you wrote this book, because to be 62, Greg, and wake up at 3, and on Wednesday at the least not stop till 10. Like, when I'm 62, I don't want to do anything. All right, I want to rest. I'll do my hour of exercise, but I'm just going to rest, Greg. I'm just going to rest. But he had just he threw himself into it. Then it's an obsession. It's an obsession.
It is. Yeah, he would work out 2 hours. You know, he worked out 2 hours every day, weight training, and then swim. He was an amazing swimmer, and really anything physically that he did, he was a world-class gymnast, a world-class swimmer. He actually made the 1936 Olympic wrestling team, and that's the Berlin, Germany, Hitler Olympics. But just before they were going to go over there, they disqualified him because that same year he opened his gym as a 21-year-old young man and was a professional getting paid. And back then you couldn't be paid as a professional and compete in the Olympics. So we're actually working to try to get the U.S. Olympic Committee to try to posthumously give him that recognition on the 36 Olympics team. But yeah, anything he did physically, he excelled at. And when you dig into the book more, you'll see some of the amazing feats of strength and endurance, including 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 pull-ups in an hour and 20 minutes. And when I talked to Elaine about this, I love what she says. She says, the stories that I tell you, Greg, are from the horse's mouth. And I know that because I was there. 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 pull-ups. And I said, Elaine, did he do them in like bundles of 50 and 50 and 50? She said, no, he did them consecutively. And I'm thinking, I can't even fathom that. I just can't fathom it. Their first meeting, a lot of people don't know this about Elaine, but she is a true legend in the television production world. She was a female in 1947 as the producer of a 90-minute daily talk show in San Francisco. One of Jack's people at his gym called over and asked if they could get Jack on the show, and he would do 90 minutes nonstop of push-ups. And Elaine thought, okay, that's kind of interesting. We'll book him. So the first time they met in the hallway of the production company, Elaine comes walking down the hallway with a cigarette in one hand and a donut in the other hand to meet Jack LaLanne. And she says, wow. The first thing he said to her, pointed to the donut and said, the only good thing about that donut is the hole in the middle. And, over the course of time, they got to know each other better and they became a power couple. But I think a lot of what she brought to the table with her television production experience, his magnetism, like you said, he was able to talk through the screen like he was talking to millions of people, one person at a time. And I also asked, how many takes it took for him to do his show. She said he did one take per show. It was just like, some people just have it.
Some people just have it, man. And again, what I've identified with him, again, it's a switch. The greats, they flip it and they don't turn off until the lights turn off.
Exactly.
And yeah. Also, and I don't mean this at all in a disparaging way, the greats also need a really good handler.
And that was Elaine. That's the power couple. Yeah.
The people that don't have that, they squander the gift.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
So yeah. I look at the cover here.
Yeah.
What age is he on the cover?
He's in his 40s.
Yeah. So as someone who's about to turn 41, and I'm finding this with myself as well, there's a muscle maturity that you reach, I think, in your 40s, as long as you've been consistent through the decades, where you can reach your peak in a lot of ways physically. The mental peak, I think, can be as long as you want to take it. But I look at this physique, Greg, and I see the ideal natural physique.
Great. He was always 100% natural. Yeah, and he preached that, and I took that to heart too. And in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was a lot of experimenting going on. And bodybuilders were, just trying everything. And Jack always was so adamant about the natural way to do it. And so I always appreciated that because I really took that to heart through my career.
This reminds me of, we recently did a little vacation and I went to the Getty Villa in Malibu. And, he was obsessed with Greco-Roman sculpture and architecture. And the sculptures are just fascinating, but you see these bodies, and this is like the Greek physique. You know what I'm saying? Like there's beauty in it. And I think it's sometimes like it's easy to we've entered a kind of a body positivity era, which is fine. Everyone should find a way to be happy in their own skin. I'm all about it. But there's also nothing wrong with pursuing or sculpting or building. And because it's also, it's a lifelong process. You know, you're constantly, you shift on, work on this, work on that, but you're given this slab of clay, and you have a real say in how you put it together. And it's beautiful. It's as someone with kind of the mind of an engineer or a builder. Now you can, there are pitfalls to it, right? Being obsessive about it, being a perfectionist about it, but I don't know. It strikes me too. Now, these muscles, not just show. Let's talk about some of the feats here. Like, and honestly, I think his gift was obviously in the water. So the stuff, the push up and pull up stuff, like that's beyond comprehension. But the stuff in the water is like from another universe.
Yeah, I mean, swimming from Alcatraz to Fisherman's Wharf, you know, this is back when they said that couldn't be done. That's why they built the prison on Alcatraz Island, because you couldn't escape it. You know, people would try, they'd get in the water and they'd drown and die. But he swam that multiple times. He was one of the very first to ever accomplish that. He did that when he was in his early 40s for one of his feats of strength and endurance. And what he wanted to do back then, 40 years of age was considered old, right? And so as he got over 40 each year, and then the milestone ones, you know, 50, 55, 60, 70, he would do a big major feat. And the one that always fascinated me was when he turned 70 years of age. And what he would do is not only swim, but he would swim in open water in the Long Beach Harbor at age 70, handcuffed, with his feet shackled, a mile and a half in the Long Beach Harbor, pulling 70 boats with 70 people. Let that set in. At 70, handcuffed, shackled, pulling 70 boats and 70 people. I mean, again, that just baffles me. And it's funny, I was talking to Elaine about that. And I said, so why did he quit at 70? She goes, oh, he tried to do it again. He said, she said he wanted to do another one when he turned 80. And Elaine put her foot down and said, if you do, I'm going to divorce you.
So really, like if we're being like truly honest about it, when would you, what was the year that either she and or he noticed, like, all right, there's some physical decline here that even like the master of fitness himself could not fully prevent? What was 70 kind of a tipping point for him?
Well, 70, I mean, if you look at that, we've got video and we've got pictures in the book of it, because when you tell people that, they're like, there's no way that can't be done. But we've got archival video of it and the pictures in the book. So it can be done. But I think that 80 is when, like I said, Elaine started seeing the difference. And the thing is, like you said, your greatest strengths become your greatest weaknesses. And I think because he had such a powerful mindset that he thought he was invincible. And none of us are invincible. But you've got to appreciate the mindset. And it does carry you as far as you can go if you've got the right mindset. But it can also get you in trouble if you don't have that person in your life that can pull the reins a little bit. So I think that 80 probably was the point at which Elaine saw it. Maybe he didn't, because he was willing to do that. And, you know, go ahead.
No, please. So we 40 was over the hill.
Yes.
Right. But he found a way to double.
Yes.
Interesting.
Exactly. And, you know, everyone talks about mindset training, and it's this new thing over the last decade or two. But the cool thing is, when I was looking at some of the training where he started doing the San Francisco Bay swims, that water's cold. And he didn't like cold water. But what's real interesting, and we've got it in the book too, we've got his notes when he was getting ready to do one of those big swims and the water was freezing and he had to acclimate himself to that. And we put the notes over the course of 6 weeks leading up to it in the book, because it's really fascinating to watch his mindset change. You know, the first note was basically, I really don't like cold water. I don't know how much time I can spend in the water. And each of those notes over the course of the weeks progressively got to the point where the last one said, I love this cold water. This is going to be an amazing day. You know, it's just that seeing that switch of mindset telling him, and not only that mindset part of it, but the physical part of it. Everyone's doing the cold plunge these days, right? I mean, you see it on Instagram where they're getting into the ice water and doing those cold plunges. That was how we prepared for it. In the hotel, he would get in the bathtub at the end of the day, fill the water tub up. Elaine would get the ice and dump in the ice tub. You know, this is in the 1950s and 60s, before anyone had ever even heard of a cold plunge. Jack was doing it so far ahead of his time, but it was that mindset of I can do this. And I just love having those notes that we were able to put into the book. We were also able to put about a dozen articles that he had written that were never published, so they had never been seen before, into the book. And if you read those articles and you think that was just written last week, because they're so timely and they're so relevant even today. It's just, you know, I can't say enough amazing things about him. And he's just so inspiring to me and allows me to think, man, the next 30 plus years are going to be amazing for me. So, you know, it gives people hope.
He would just talk himself into things. And, you know, that's what the genius and just that, you know, day to day. And by the way, like anytime you tackle something challenging, or for those listening that have never really committed to an active lifestyle, which I'd be surprised you're listening to this podcast if it's the case, or if you've been out of it for a while, you remember the first time. And if you can just talk yourself through those first couple workouts, those first couple weeks, the other side is beauty, right? Because again, you don't dread it, you don't hate it. Now there's days you don't want to do it, but you can always do something else. You know, I talk about this all the time, like the plan B workouts. You have a plan, but okay, always have a backup that you can kind of fall into that allows you to get something done in and out of the gym. I wanted to just talk about the attitude piece.
Sure.
You know, my Achilles heel in and out of the gym is attitude. For a lot of reasons I don't need to get into on this episode. Those that know me know. But this page in particular, just the way he flips the script. Aging versus ageless attitudes.
Yeah.
And the first one I'll say will be the aging, and the second will be ageless. I can't do it. I believe I can. It's too hard. Life is great. Another challenge. It's not fun. I will make it fun. It's too expensive. You get what you pay for. People will laugh at me. People don't care. That one in particular, and the life of social media, that can eat you up and spit you out and change the way it'll change you to your core, because you're constantly trying to figure out, who do I need to be for other people? Nobody cares. You might as well live your life on your terms to the fullest. I'm too old. Age is a number. I'm not very smart. I'm capable and resourceful. I'm not lucky. Luck is skill with repetition. Nothing good ever happens to me. I'm the master of my fate. Fate controls my life. I control my destiny. The world is rotten. It's how you look at it. It's a powerful statement, especially today. I inherited it from my father. I control my life. Anything is possible. You know, it's also, so these are words. You can just read these and you can feel the shift from negativity and cynicism to positivity and joy. You can feel the shift. You can actualize it. And he was very big into visualization. Again, some could argue, as you said early in his career, delusions of grandeur. But a lot of the people that do amazing things, you have to go through a period of time where, you know, you tell people stuff. It's like, this guy might need some medication, right? Because they don't have those types of visions,
right?
And they just don't have the self-belief. This guy had a self-belief about him that was absolutely next level.
Yeah, no question. Especially when all the authorities that people listened to were saying that he was a quack. You know, so he really had to have that purposeful drive to overcome all of that, when the whole world, the scientific community, was telling the average person, don't listen to him, he's crazy, you're going to die, you know. And he believed it so passionately that he was able to overcome all of that. Yeah.
So talk to me about, and I love the title because it's Pride and Discipline. And I want to just get the insights. And obviously I know you've discussed it with his wife, and
Sure.
I wonder how many different iterations of the title there was, but also my mentor, the guy who got me into this, Coach Donald Forty of University School Milwaukee, my weight training, track and field, and football coach. We used to break every practice, every game with 1, 2, 3 pride. He was all about pride. That's a word that has really been kind of imprinted in my DNA, and also discipline. I don't do a lot of things great, Greg, but I've been blessed with the ability to pursue and be disciplined. It's meant everything to my life. Talk to me about the title and how you guys came to it, and why specifically those 2 words define Jack LaLanne.
Well, they are his words. He always talked about, and he would talk about it in the context, not of just kids, but the one that resonated with me the most was when he was talking about the young generation growing up. Again, this goes back 50 years or more, and how soft they were becoming. And he talked about, you've got to have pride. You've got to take pride in what you do, how you carry yourself. And then you've got to have the discipline to follow through with what you say you're going to do. You've got to have pride and discipline. So for me, just hearing him say that time after time after time, it was a no-brainer. And the discipline part, he always talked about, he said, I'm just a lazy man, but fortunately, the discipline that I have is greater than my laziness. And it's like, that's a powerful statement, because I feel like that at times. There are days when college football is on that I want nothing more than to grab a cold glass of water and have some food in front of me, put my feet up and sit and watch 12 hours of college football and just be lazy. But fortunately, my discipline is strong enough to at least get up for an hour of that and do something, you know. And he talked about that constantly, about fortunately his discipline was greater or overcame his laziness. So again, that was a real easy pride and discipline, because he constantly talked about that. And then the rest of it, you know, the legacy, obviously, what he would tell his mentees, he said, whatever you learn from me, one thing, pass it on. So I, as a mentee, am making sure his legacy is carried on to the next generation through print, the movie, and me speaking about his legacy to the industry. So that second part, you know, is Jack LaLanne's legacy. I'm just following what he told me to do, pass it on. And then we started interviewing so many people. You had mentioned Lou Ferrigno. He was my very first interview for the book. And, you know, I grew up as a kid watching the Incredible Hulk. So it was like, I was just in awe being able to interview him. And what was really cool is me being in awe of Lou Ferrigno, I could hear his awe in Jack LaLanne. And he was just in awe of Jack. And so I loved hearing him be me, you know, talking to about his hero. And so the rest of it in his own words and the words of those he inspired, because we reached out to so many people to hear from them. I want to hear from everyone that he inspired. And we put so many of those interviews into the book, and, you know, just a few of them there on the back, including Mark Wahlberg. And early on in the process, because Mark is so much younger than most of the people we interviewed, people were wondering what was his connection. And we couldn't say anything at the time because it was still being negotiated with his production company. But finally, just this past April of 2023, we were able to announce in the Hollywood Reporter that Mark Wahlberg's production company is doing the biography of Jack LaLanne and then the feature film of his life. So it's going to be a global, explosion of what Jack did for the industry, but not just for the industry, the message to the world of health and fitness. That was a long-winded answer.
No. I mean, that's a beautiful answer, man. Like he obviously was thinking about every day. He was thinking about putting in the work to have an impact beyond his own natural life, and that's obviously what drove him. Because to do the things he was doing, he had to feel connected to something way bigger than himself. That's what it's all about. When you wake up and things feel meaningless, you get encountered with those obstacles, and maybe you can get through the first couple, but then eventually the accumulation, and you just kind of revert to, the lazier side of ourselves when you don't have a principled quest. So he obviously created that for himself at every stage of life, which is just so fascinating. What was his height and weight?
Yeah, he was 5'5", 5'6" at best. It's kind of like on a pro football team, they'll say he's 6'4" and 250. He's really 6'1" and 2.
Sure, yeah. But, yeah. Hulk Hogan was 7 feet, 350 pounds.
Exactly. In the Rocky movie, that's what they said. No, but yeah, he was about 5'5", 5'6", 140-ish pounds. But again, you look at him on the cover of the book, and he looks so much bigger than that. But he had mastery over his body, and would travel 6 hours on Fridays down the coast of California from Oakland to Muscle Beach, where they would perform all of those amazing body architectural things, where they would climb on each other's shoulders and do all those amazing gymnastic kind of things, and pull up contests and ropes and rings. And they still have those there at Venice Beach. But he would do that every Friday, drive down there to Muscle Beach, play on the beach, and then drive back up and get ready for work on Monday morning at his gym. And that was really, he became a legend there at Muscle Beach for his feats of strength, doing all those amazing body pyramids and push-ups, pull-ups, and all those feats.
What does it say about the fact that arguably the biggest man to ever grace the fitness space was, quote unquote, a tiny man?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people call it the Napoleon complex, where, little guys kind of feel like they have to overcome maybe the height difference with the physical prowess. And I don't know if that was it, but, he was a sugarholic all of his life up to age 15, at which time his mother and he went to a Paul Bragg, who was a famous nutritionist back in the day. And he said it was like a religious experience. I mean, it was just, he was born again and learned that he could change his life. And literally overnight, he turned into the Jack LaLanne that we know today when he quit eating sugar. And I asked Elaine once several years ago, I said, tell me the truth, Elaine, when you're at home late at night, did he ever snack? Come on, he had to have a bite of chai. And she said, Greg, I will tell you, I did, but he never cheated once. And it's just, that's hard for me to imagine.
So you're saying there was no cheat meal?
It blows me away. And Elaine was quick to say, now understand, if it was my birthday, I was going to have a piece of chocolate cake, but he never did. And it's just hard to fathom.
So I have a couple other things I want to touch on, but just so right there, was he miserable to live with at times? Did she say in his quest of, because again, like that's something that would cause a definite rift in most relationships.
Well, I think that Elaine her nature was such that he brought such, and she talks about this, because she would get frustrated with life and situations. And she said it always amazed her at how he would turn things into a positive. And when she would try to bring negativity to a conversation, how he wouldn't hear anything about it. You know, he was like, if you want to go down that road of negativity, you can, but let's flip it and think positive. I mean, he was one of those shifting mindset kind of guys that, you know, a lot of people may get annoyed at that constantly always being positive. But I think that her nature was such that it uplifted her. And I think that they, you know, they just meshed. And she said that happened early on from when they met. And they just became an amazing team because of what she brought to the table and what he brought to the table. And I will say it because she never will, because she is so humble and always wants to put Jack out there. But I will say that she was equally as responsible for what Jack, the brand of Jack LaLanne became, than as he was. She would never say that, but I will.
Oh yeah, no, I have no doubt she was the sounding board. She was the person that could filter through the endless stream of consciousness,
Mhm.
right? Because again, this is what handlers do, right? Because you
Right.
can't do it all. You got to pick your just really fascinating stuff. The other thing that really struck me, um, and I know this from especially when I used to train people. You know, we like to think as trainers, people are following us because of our unique workouts and exercises, but this is a personality fueled industry. It always has been, it always will be. And humor was really a big, he actually credits humor as his biggest, maybe not his biggest, but one of the key anti-aging you know, facets to his life. You know, finding the humor in things anytime you can. You know, not taking yourself so seriously. Also, you know, he's got these isms or quips that, you know, are like if you're going to do TV, like it's all sound bites, right? And you have to entertain people, and that's exhausting. You know, honestly, like I'd much rather just get the workout out and send it out. The To me, the entertainment is something you have to pay extra for. But early in my career, when I was really like super passionate about this, I led with my humor and my you know, my unique way of saying things. And it's I encourage people not only to watch Jack's old content, but if you're a trainer in this space, go back and watch your old content, because you know I look back at some of my older workouts that I made, stuff I would never share today because you know, it's not as professional or as refined or sophisticated, but it was more entertaining, and it probably left a deeper, more positive impact because it was playful. And that's the balance, because as you get older and more mature, there is less energy, and the energy it takes to be enthusiastic, to be energetic, to be entertaining, um, it's tough to produce it. So I share that because I've been watching a lot of my older content too. I'm like, I can't even recognize that guy. I can't even recognize that guy. And but I'm looking, I'm like, wow, these are the same elements, right? The sayings, the quips, finding the light in the heavy. That was a big part of his overall package.
Yeah, in fact, we did a whole section. That was one of Elaine's insistence in the book. She said he was so funny that she said we have to put a section of humor in the book. And one of my favorite ones was when he was being interviewed on Dateline NBC by Keith Richardson of Dateline NBC. He said to Keith, he said, you know, there's nothing that I wouldn't do for Elaine, and there's nothing that Elaine wouldn't do for me. So we spend all day doing nothing for each other. And it's like, you know, that dry sense of humor, you think about it, it's like, oh, I get it. But that was one of my favorite ones. Yeah, he had a lot of fun.
Oh, for sure. Here's a powerful sentence. Without a sense of humor, it's practically impossible to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I mean when it's like people just don't get it, myself included sometimes. Like just again, like this, just how simple life can really be
Yeah.
if you get out of your head and you actually can just spend some time alone in your own thoughts. Can you do that for 5, 10, 15 minutes? Just be alone with yourself, think, look around you, let your senses just feel the natural world around you. But man, humor is everything. Humor is everything. And when you lose, as a lot of us have since the global pandemic, and just we are in a depression, mental health, anxiety crisis. We are, and you have to, we don't smile as much as we used to. We certainly don't laugh as much as we used to. You have to activate it, just like fitness. You have to be proactive about it. You got to go out of your way to be goofy and playful. One thing that can certainly help is get a dog, get a boxer. If I didn't have a boxer in my life, because things can be so serious, like if your business is struggling and you run your own business, like what else do you see? What else do you see? You've got to find a way to activate that. And it's just so powerful, man. And again, that you got to find humor in your own training too. I talk to people too, and it pains me how serious. Like, you don't even do this for a living, and I'm talking to you right now, and you're so depressed about like not being able to do a certain exercise perfectly.
Yep.
Man, we've lost sight of what this is all about. Yep. We really have.
And I think you're right. We do take ourselves too seriously, and that's why I like to post. And I'm not a big social media guy, but I'll post stuff, and it's not high quality by any stretch, but I will post all of my failures. In fact, I just posted one of them today of my falls, because I fall a lot in that Ninja Warrior training.
You've got pads, so you're doing it in a safe way.
But again, it's just like being a little kid. And what's amazing is how the more you fail, the more you learn. And then it's amazing to watch from the early failures to where you are now, and how the progression occurs through those failures. And, it just is such a great teacher along the way. And if you can share, I think authenticity is so, rather than being so professionally coiffed and all the high def camera angles and all that stuff, I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying people want authenticity. They don't want to always see you at your best. They need to see you fail, because perfection is not realistic. It just isn't. And we get better through those failures. And I just think that if we can, as a whole society, just understand that failure leads us to being a better version of ourselves, rather than thinking perfection is the only way. It's not. Yeah.
Well, and again, there's a humanity to all of his work, and that's what's difficult. Look, they say be yourself, and then sometimes you're yourself, and it can cost you business. It can cost you relationships. It can cost you opportunities. And then you can try to play it safe, but then it's like, oh, what happened to the humanity of what I used to do, or the authenticity of what I used to do? And so, again, sometimes I feel like being authentic is terrible advice. I think you have to be authentic in the right situations. You know what I mean? Like you got to be authentic for a particular audience. And that's what's difficult, because again, that's what we're told. You got to be, be who you are. And then, people will be themselves, and they get criticized or insulted. It's tough. I personally, I have not figured out, the only people that do great things in the world, they polarize. And you've got
to get that. I know what you're saying. Yeah. And those are the people that become obsessively passionate about things. Steve Jobs would be probably a pretty good example of what he created with Apple, but he was a polarizing guy. A lot of people didn't like him. His workers, a lot of them didn't like him, because he was so passionately obsessive, or obsessively passionate about what he did. And he created something amazing, but it cost him, at what cost? So I think that just in everyday life is more about what I was talking about, from the standpoint of, I would rather be authentic to my tribe than be inauthentic and have twice as many people in my group. I'm not trying to be Steve Jobs. I don't aspire to that. So I think a lot of it has to do with what your purpose is in life.
For sure.
And that's probably where that line is drawn. It's what's the purpose? The GPS system will take you there, and being your true self, I think, is what helps guide me. And again, I'm not whatever's right for any other individual.
Oh, sure, yeah. And by the way, this is this changes with age. It changes with the times. You can only give so much, and if you're not getting anything back, like, so it's a two-way street, right?
Sure.
Um, I want to close this episode. By the way, I really enjoyed this. I don't always enjoy guest episodes, if I'm being honest, but I feel like this was a book that I needed to receive in the mail. So I wanted to thank you first for sending it. We'll have links to all the show notes, and I'll be blasting it out as well. Especially if you're a fitness pro, this is the prototype. This is the person that has laid the foundation for everything we've seen since. But there's a quote, and I just like this. This kind of embodies the way I'm going to approach. If I'm lucky to live another 40 plus years, I made a lot of mistakes in my life, Greg. We all have, but life is great when you're in shape.
There's one of his famous quotes.
Because I come across, I just can't tell you the people that I come across my age, all they want to talk about is, why they're not as in good a shape as I am. I mean, I don't say that in a breaking way. It's just like, I try to shift the conversation. I say, if anything, like it's a sales opportunity for me. Like, it's so strange when I'm in public with people and they ask, like, how do you do this? I say, I just walk every day, or, don't worry, it's not worth it, because, it's like, this is my time to walk and stuff, but like, that's all they want to talk about. And now I've had the luxury, I built a lifestyle in a business that allows me to put my fitness where it needs to be, number one, in my mind. But you can have all the money in the world, you can have all the things, you can have all the excess. If you feel tired, if you hate the way you look, if you have no energy, what is it all? What is it all worth? What is it all worth?
Absolutely nothing. A man with his health has 1,000 dreams. A man without his health just has one, and that's to be healthy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Because again, this is an industry designed, it's designed to sell to people's insecurities. Mm-hmm. I'm going to help you change the way you look. Well, you can't change the way you look. You can make yourself a fitter version of the way you look, right? It's also an industry designed to sell people on shortcuts. Take this pill, take this supplement, take this 28-day program. Again, you got to play the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. You got to play it too if you want to be in this business. It's a very cynical space. It's a very, very cynical space. But at the end of the day, and I shared this conversation in a previous podcast episode. I went to this restaurant, and it's in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm picking something up, and I could tell this guy was like, he was at maybe 50 or so, and he was eyeing me since I had arrived. I didn't know it was because I had a Lakers hat on. Like, that's a big, in California, you have a Lakers hat, people want to talk to you. But he came up to me and he said, "I used to look like you." And I said, "Yeah, it probably wasn't worth it, right?" All the work, he goes, no, it was everything. And now I'm not. And let me just put it this way, keep it up. And it was really just such a profound, I'm paraphrasing because, again, I was just so taken aback by it. Someone that was at the time a decade older than me. And over the next 10 years, if I let all the habits that have built me to this day go, that's likely the path I may have been on, right? Mm-hmm. And I look at it, it's like, is it all worth it? Because you can drop dead tomorrow, right? You can drop dead tomorrow. Yep. Is it worth spending all that time on your fitness when it can just be taken away from you in a second. But the perspective that he had with it, and again, I don't know his actual story. It was a thing in passing, but what's the point of going on a vacation if you're not comfortable going in the pool for whatever reason? Either because you can't swim, or you're afraid of, showing your body, or you're not able to go on an adventure hike when you're in the mountains. Like, it just the simplicity of that statement. You want to be fit over 40. That's the statement I think that you want to really focus on. Life is great when you're in shape. It's a choice. It takes daily effort. It takes discipline. But like you said, the title of the book, you got to have pride in what you do, pride in the way you carry yourself, pride in the way you live. So I don't know, man, this is just, I hope this episode hits people where they need to be hit. You got to check out this book. It's beautifully put together, using a mix of his words and works and pictures. Tell us where we can learn more about you, find the book. Again, I'll put everything in the show notes, but I appreciate you, Greg. I think this is fantastic. And I'm pretty sure Jack LaLanne would be proud of the example you've led in this industry, and the pride and discipline you continue to and have taken in your work for nearly 4 decades.
Well, I'm just following in his footsteps and hoping that I can share with the next generation and make our industry better, because each generation's responsibility is to pass on, just like Jack told us, to the next generation so they can do it even better. That's my mission at this point with Elaine, to do that through the book and through the movie, and through all the products that we're launching with his name on it, and only the best, highest quality products. You can learn more at jacklalanne.com. My website is gregjustice.com, aycfit.com, endlessrope.com, scripterpublishinggroup.com. So my businesses are my websites, and I'm blessed to be in an industry where passion drives me in everything I do. And BJ, I just appreciate you and what you're doing. And thank you for allowing me to share a little bit about pride and discipline and helping me carry on the legacy of Jack LaLanne.
Let me ask you this, final thoughts. Have you had a point, I'm sure you've had many inflection points in the 4 decades in this space. Can you share a moment where you wanted to quit? Have you had a moment where you wanted to quit, or you've been pushed to the point where, and if not, whatever obstacle in all of your career that has stood out the most and the lesson you took from it?
I honestly cannot think of one moment since I started my business fresh out of graduate school in 1986. I honestly cannot think of a point in time where I even allowed the thought of quitting to be, in the 6 inches between my ears. I honestly can't think of a time. I'm also, and I've written articles and talked to trainers in the industry about the term burnout, because a lot of trainers will come to me saying, man, I'm just burnt out. And the whole thing about mindset is allowing negative thoughts in your head. So burnout has never been a part of my thinking any more than retirement is. I'm a guy that will never retire. So retirement, burnout, negative thoughts. And again, this is stuff I learned from my mentor, Jack LaLanne. I just don't allow that stuff rent in my head. So I honestly can't think of a time that happened. I can tell you the very moment when I wanted to share Jack's legacy, and that was on my 49th birthday. I'm 62 now, so that was 13 years ago when Jack sent me a wonderful note wishing me a happy 49th birthday and wishing me at least another 49 healthy, happy years. And at that moment, that touched me so deeply, because I've had a mature business at that point at age 49 and things were going well. But him taking the time out of his busy day to reach out to me, to wish me a happy birthday, it touched me. And I thought I know that that was the beginning of the manifestation of what was now, or what is now this, because I thought, I've got to do something. I've got to do something to carry on his legacy. And then it festered for several years until I went to Elaine and said, Elaine, we have to. I'm seeing more and more on our industry that don't know who Jack is, that don't know what he contributed. We've got to get his legacy back out to our industry. And so that was the moment, the aha moment. And it took 13 years to manifest. But you put intention in your head and drive forward, and amazing things happen.
That's a great place to end. I want to thank Ray Justice for his time and his work and contributions for 4+ decades now to this space. Many more decades to come, based on what we heard today. This guy has just got obviously a pulse and a passion for this that is never going to go away. I think for every breath and every beat, you're going to be connected to this space, and I thank you for it. You are a true professional, man. I'm going to drop in all the associated links in the show notes. Please check out this book, and please do yourself a favor. If you need a dose of true joy, passion, and positivity, watch Jack LaLanne on video, and it just comes right through the screen. I'd appreciate it, guys, if you take the time for a 5-star rating and review. Helps us get out there to more good people like you. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Many more to come. And just take some pride and discipline in what you do and fight for it every day. Love you guys. Peace.